Hello friends, welcome to Civilstap Himachal YouTube channel. Friends, my name is Avinash Agarwal and in this particular lecture I am going to talk about the issue of diversity in Indian judiciary. How diverse is Indian judiciary? Do we have judges coming from various socio-economic backgrounds of India? Do we have judges coming from various different regions of India representing different religion, different caste groups? Do we have sufficient number of Adivasi judges? Do we have sufficient number of Dalit judges? Do we have sufficient number of judges who are women? Do we have sufficient number of judges representing the rich diversity of our country? This is the important issue that we are going to talk about in this particular lecture. So the structure of this particular discussion is going to be like this. We'll be starting off with introduction. We'll be doing a status check of gender diversity in Indian judiciary in part 2. We'll be looking at what are the reasons for the lack of diversity in Indian judiciary. Thereafter in part 4 we will speak about why is it desirable to have sufficient diversity in Indian judiciary. In part 5 we will look at the steps that can be taken or should be taken to increase diversity in Indian judiciary, and then we will conclude with some enlightening words from former Chief Justice of India CJI Ramanna. So let us begin dosto. So the first and foremost issue is that we need to understand in any answer that you are writing in the mains examination, there has to be an intro, body and conclusion. So what can be an introduction to this topic? Introduction to this topic can be some data points or something about the present status of diversity in Indian judiciary. That can be the introduction. So maybe you can speak about recent current affairs such as this one, where the Supreme Court Collegium itself is talking about enhancing the diversity profile of judges in higher judiciary. So the Supreme Court Collegium, the judges who select judges, they themselves are talking about improving upon the diversity profile. And the fact that they're talking about this important issue, it is a welcome development, it's a step in the right direction. As of now in India, we are having quotas to enhance representation from diverse communities only at the subordinate court level. And only in very few states we are having these kinds of quotas. So in only very few states, representatives from disadvantaged castes, representatives from tribal sections of society are able to surely enter the judiciary. Only in few states, and that too only at the subordinate level, subordinate court level. When we talk about reservation for women, it is prevalent only in a couple of states such as Andhra Pradesh and Bihar, and that too only at the subordinate courts level. So the fact is that we have been using quotas or we have been using reservations, right, to enhance the representation, right, whether it is in panchayat elections or whether it is in urban local bodies or whether it is in your state services or civil services examinations or whether it is in education institutions. We are having some kind of quotas to ensure representativeness, all right, but we are not having that at the level of Indian judiciary. If I give you further more data, if I give you further more pointers, so in 2019, the figures for women subordinate court judges were quite low. At the national level, we were having only 30% judges who were women at the subordinate court level. And this number never reached 50% except in case of Meghalaya, which is basically an exception. It is basically a rarity. It is not the norm that we are having women representatives close to 50% in our judiciary. So that is the problem over here. Goa is also an exception. It is having 72% women judges at the subordinate court level. The moment we shift the discussion from subordinate court to high court level, this number plunges down. So this number is already at a low level of 30% at the national level, at the subordinate courts level. The moment we speak about the higher courts, this number goes down to just 11%. What does that mean? That means that at the higher court level or at the Supreme Court level combined, we are just having 11% women judges. This number is abysmally low. It is very, very low. If we were looking at Goa as an exception, it is having 72% judges at the subordinate courts level who are females. In Goa at the higher court level, this number drops down to only 13%. So you can understand the kind of steep dive that is taking place. You can understand the lack of female judges at the higher courts level. Right? If you look at Bihar, Tripura, Uttarakhand, Meghalaya, Manipur, as well as various other high courts, at various different points of time, there have been instances where there have been absolutely no women judges at all whatsoever in these high courts. Now you can understand, now we are not saying that males are going to be biased or males are not going to have an understanding of gender issues, but who can understand gender issues the best? It is the women who can understand the gender issues best, or at least they can bring in a more informed opinion, or they can bring in a more emphatic opinion. They can bring in a viewpoint which may be distinct from the viewpoint of an all male judiciary. So the idea is that if we want women to have access to justice, if we want to promote justice for women in our country, there is a very, very, very dire need to improve upon this particular situation and increase the representativeness. I'm going to develop this point going ahead furthermore, that why do we need to have diversity in our judiciary. If you look at Sikkim is having 33.3% women judges in High Court as compared to 28.6% in subordinate courts. So Sikkim is basically leading the country in this particular point of view, in the sense that what we are having in Sikkim is something that we should try to emulate in other higher courts as well, that we should be able to maintain at least a basic minimum level of representation. That is something that we can decide by consensus. In the 74 years or 75, 76 years after independence, there have been only 7 women Supreme Court judges. This number is very low. We need to work upon it. Now, what are the reasons? Why is there lack of diversity? So, point number 1 is that the entire system of selecting and appointing judges through this collegium system, it's quite opaque, right? So, we do not have any particular rationale or any particular objective reasoning coming out from the collegium system as to why we have such less number of women judges or Adivasi judges or Dalit judges or judges from religious minorities in the higher courts or in the subordinate courts. We are not having those rationales available to us. We do not have that reasoning available to us. So the opaque collegium system, which does not give too many answers, which does not hold itself accountable to any outside questioning or to any outside spotlight, that system is to be blamed more than anything else. Because had the system wanted to have diversity, it could have done that long back, but the system never did that. So the first and foremost point becomes your opaque collegium system. The second point is there is lack of tracking, lack of data, lack of analysis, lack of debate, lack of spotlight, lack of understanding of this issue, that we need to work upon this. This is a problem, because if we have a more representative judiciary, if we have a more diverse judiciary, it is going to be better for the cause of justice in our country. The fact that Adivasis and tribals and religious minorities and women in India have been marginalized, it is a well documented fact. Nobody can deny it. You just need to look at the socio-economic indicators of these subsections of our population, and you will be able to appreciate the fact that these sections of society have been socio-economically marginalized. That similar kind of marginalization is very clearly evident when we are looking at the judiciary, when we are seeing that the judges at the higher court level are predominantly coming from the upper caste male segment of our society. Now, I am not saying that upper caste male segment of society does not have the heart to be the judge or does not have the brain to be the judge. All I am saying is that there has to be a better sense of representation. Right? There is no women reservation. There is no reservation for Dalits and tribals, let us say, which is why we are not seeing their numbers rise up within the subordinate ranks as well. Now, why is it that diversity in judiciary is desirable? There are multiple reasons. First and foremost is that having diversity in judiciary will improve the delivery of justice. It is well documented, it is researched across the world. It has been shown that if you are having a diverse set of judges hearing the case, that case ka outcome, that case ka judgment is better reflective, it is more nuanced, it is more layered. So the idea over here is that all of us, me, you, he, she, everybody, we are all having some sense of bias. We are having some sense of unconscious subcultural bias running through our thinking processes, informing our thinking processes, informing our decision making. Now what happens is that if you are having a similar set of judges, right, who are having a similar set of biases, so then they may not be able to really extricate that bias out of their judgment. They may not be able to really be able to identify that, okay, how is it that they are being biased without even realizing that they are being biased, and how is it that it is impacting the judgment in a negative way, let us say. The moment you have a diverse set of judges who are reasoning, who are arguing, who are deciding amongst themselves as to what should be the best course of action in a particular case should be, so they will be able to come up with a more advanced set of arguments within themselves, more insights within themselves, and the set of judgments that will come out should be better. So the idea is that judiciary is basically an organization which is focused on equity and equality. If judiciary itself is not having equity and equality within the ranks of judges, then how can the judiciary promote equity and equality in the larger society? They must first promote equity and equality within themselves, which will help them become an effective organization. Within the Indian Constitution, we lay a lot of emphasis on having equal opportunities in our public institutions. Now, judiciary is a public institution. We must ask ourselves this question, that why is it that there have been so few Adivasi judges, so few Dalit judges, so few judges who are female, so few judges from religious minorities? So if equal opportunities truly and effectively there within the overall set of public institutions, then why is it that our Indian judiciary should be an exception to that norm? And moreover, what it will do, what having diverse judges, what having good judgments come out of judiciary will do, is that it will improve access to justice. More people will come forward to seek justice when they believe that they will be able to get justice from our judges. So I'm not saying that the present set of judges are not doing their job well. I am saying that the next set of judges or the next crop of judges can do their job better if they are more diverse and reflective of India's diversity. Now, how can we go about increasing the diversity in Indian judiciary? Well, as a matter of fact, there is a huge amount of vacancy at present within our subordinate courts and higher courts, right? Now, if we were to set our minds that okay, we are having these vacancies, going ahead we are going to fill up these vacancies, trying to improve upon the diversity profile of our benches, then that can be a step ahead in the right direction. So using these vacancies to our advantage can be step number one. Step number two can be that judiciary itself, judges themselves who are a part of the collegium, they can sort of enunciate policies and they can sort of create processes to promote diversity consciously. It has to be a conscious policy decision. It has to be a conscious selection decision to promote diversity. Now, we are not saying that select judges who do not have the merit, select judges who do not have the mental capacity to serve at these levels just to promote diversity. We are not saying that. We are saying that definitely have a minimum threshold of competence that a judge must possess, whether belongs to one community or another, one section or another. They should have that minimum threshold of competence, and beyond that minimum threshold of competence, if they are able to strengthen the diversity profile of our benches, then they should be selected ahead of others, maybe, right? Just for the sake of diversity, just for the sake of inclusiveness, just for the sake of representation, just for the sake of opportunity, for equality, for equity. And these are not lightweight arguments, my friends. These are very important catchwords. These are very important ideals that we strive by. We should have these annual statistics available in the public domain as to how many judges are coming from various different castes and religions and regions and gender. And once this kind of data is available, then our policy making can be more informed. And what the Supreme Court's collegium can do is that it can institutionalize this entire process. It can institutionalize this entire policy because it is completely in their hand. It is the Supreme Court collegium who decides who will be a Supreme Court judge. So they can very well decide that okay, going ahead, this is going to be the policy that we are going to follow. So far as increasing the diversity in Indian judiciary is concerned. Now, to conclude this entire argument of mine, I would like to use the words of former CJI Ramanna. Former CJI Ramanna, while delivering an address, he said that in his court, there were 4 women judges, which was the highest number so far. And he says that he expects more. And he says that inclusivity, it does not stop at having just more women judges. It also means having representation from various strata, various segments of our society. It is his wording that India is a country with population of 140 CR, 120 languages, thousands of dialects, 4,000 communities, 700 tribes, and this social and geographical diversity must find its reflection at all levels of judiciary, as diversity on the bench promotes diversity of opinions and efficiency. These are his wordings, which you can very well use in your answers, in your concluding remarks. You have to be optimistic. You have to believe that okay, a positive change can be done, and you have to be able to suggest measures the way I have suggested after analyzing the problem thoroughly. I hope this has enriched your minds. I hope that this has been helpful. Please share your comments in the commentary section below so that I can understand whether you're liking or not liking these sessions. If you are liking them, then why is it that you're liking them? Please communicate. Thank you very much. All the very best and Jai Hind to all of you, dosto.